Buff 'em updates. Buff 'em updates. Adam and Chico. Yes, indeed. We're back with another episode. Final practice for the Buffs before spring, before the official spring game coming up. We got a lot of events going on tonight in Boulder. You're just getting back from Boulder, Colorado. Let us know what you saw today at practice. And who do we talk to in the media today also?
Yeah, didn't get a chance to watch practice. Unfortunately, Saturday spring game is the only opportunity we get to go in there, and that's not a shot at Colorado. It's a lot of programs nationally that have really started to close things up. And we did talk to Pat Shermer, and it's interesting what he said is that, like, we can't show anything in this spring game because I'm personally watching all these other spring games, trying to gain any edge I can. And so you got to be really vanilla. You can't show a whole lot. So he said they're going to do a lot of stuff from last year to not really tip their hand in terms of what they've been working on this spring. So I get it. But, yeah, you hear those whistles on the other side of the fence. You're like, I got into this because I love football. And so that part of it's tough. But Pat Shermer was awesome. I know you're going to have up some content from his interview today as well. And I see why Shedeur Sanders and Coach Prime like him because he's got a good personality, a cerebral temperament. Yeah. But he's got a sense of humor. And he mentioned this too in his scrum, but you can just kind of see it in the way that he acts. It's like these college kids have reinvigorated him. This is somebody that was in the NFL for a long time, and that's a pressure cooker. Not that college football, and especially Colorado this year, that's not a pressure cooker in and of itself. But I think when you're dealing with professionals that are making a lot of money, and that's partly why Coach Prime has said he doesn't want to coach in the NFL. I think that takes a little bit out of just the purity of the sport, right? And so coming back to college and dealing with young men and helping them not just grow as football players, but grow as human beings, I think has been really good for Pat Shermer. And, I really hope that he does well because I think the narrative is out there that he struggled with the Denver Broncos down I-25. And so that this is not a good hire, but I liked some of the things we saw from him that final month of the season, especially understanding that you're not reinventing the wheel 8 games into the season. That you're going to have to pretty much go with what you've been working on. Otherwise, it's not going to be successful. But dictating pace a little bit more, it's going to vary. Whereas last year it was up tempo all the time. And I think that when you have a pro quarterback like Shedeur Sanders that wants to get it right and be on the same page with other guys, that Pat Shermer definitely seems like a much better fit for him.
Definitely. I like that too. I like the camaraderie that they have, the chemistry that they have, and the respect level it seems that they have for each other. So like you said, it's going to be pretty vanilla for this spring game, of course. Everybody's going to be watching each and other. All the coaches are going to be watching the other teams, see what they can pick up, just like Coach Sherman said. So everybody out there, I don't think we should be expecting fireworks. This is like a purely like evaluation time to see what you guys can do with the vanilla playbook. Go out there, block the man in front of you, make plays like that, and then you can work your way to get possibly on the field in the fall. A lot of key guys to be looking at in this spring game. Who are some of the guys you think the coaches are eyeing to see, their, output production and see if they can possibly be a real contributor this fall?
Well, let's start with what the fans are going to be looking at. They're going to be looking at the offensive line a lot more than a fan base would typically pay attention to that unit during a regular spring. But that is, based off last season, we know what Shedeur Sanders can do. We know what Travis Hunter can do. And there are some, even though they've had defections at the running back position, you like the potential of a Michael Welch. And so you like some of those pieces, but as we saw last year, if you're not able to dominate the trenches or not even dominate, just be adequate in the trenches, those guys are just not going to be able to show off their strengths. So I think you start with Jordan Seaton, right? Just to be able to see that big man, because he looks apart. He looks like an NFL offensive lineman right now, and he's somebody that should still be in high school right now. And so that's, I think, going to be where a lot of people's eyeballs go to. And then if Charlie Offerdahl is healthy, I'm thinking he's having a big day on Saturday. It's going to be, it sounds like rainy. And so I don't know, maybe you ground it out a little bit more with the running attack. And maybe Charlie Offerdahl has one of those memorable Saturday afternoons at Folsom Field. Defensively, I really want to see DJ McKinney's length on the outside at cornerback. I want to see Preston Hodges' versatility. Do we get to see some Travis Hunter in the nickelback role? That would be a lot of fun. In Torian Carter, we've heard has had a nice spring camp on the defensive line. I'm looking forward to seeing him run around. So more specific players, because again, the schematic stuff, like if you're going into Saturday picking that apart, then you're just overanalyzing this thing. And even just individually, we're probably overanalyzing everything, right? Because the spring game is just 1 of 15 practices. They've got a whole month of August with practices. So this is a very small sample size, but I want to see Omari Miller make one of those plays that we see on YouTube in person. And so there are some potential real fun storylines, but I think it starts and ends with that offensive line, right?
Most definitely. We got to see those guys come together, protect. But I think individually, all of them are, like I said, putting that film on tape to see how they can possibly fit in coming in this fall, because I'm sure we're going to have other additions on the offensive line across the board, really, on the offensive line, tight end, running back, and that defensive line and linebackers. I asked this question last night while we were up on our late night live, myself and Brian. I asked them, is it a must have, to bring in two linebackers, especially the two ones that's been on the visit from Tennessee and Charlotte? Is it a must have to bring in more linebackers, or are we okay to go in the season the way we are? And same question for the defensive line.
I think you need one real top level linebacker. And I think the fact that Jeremiah Brown has had a good spring at linebacker is helpful. And there are some outside backers you could move to inside backer if you needed to in a pinch. I think Wester, maybe not ideal size, but is a guy that could play in that role as well. But you're going into this season, the stakes are so high. You don't want one position to get hit by injuries in camp, and then you're putting walk-ons out there. You've really got to do everything you can to fortify depth. And I think at linebacker, you need one more guy. On the defensive line, it definitely sounds like they're going to bring in one more guy. Michigan State transfer Derek Harmon is coming out here pretty soon. This is a pretty highly rated defensive line transfer prospect. I think he's ranked in the top 10 nationally in terms of portal rankings this year. And he's looking at USC and Miami as well. So that would be a nice piece to add there. So I think you want to add at least one more top-level guy at each of those spots. And those are positions where you can rotate a little bit, especially on the defensive line. You rotate a lot there, more so than other positions. So you gotta fortify this depth. I've seen it too many times with Colorado where you like that starting group. They get 5 weeks into the season and that position gets decimated and just kind of the season falls apart. And so you don't want to be in that position if you're Colorado. It's tough though, because playing time's a currency. And so you've got to be able to sell guys on competition and being able to come in and compete and not shy away from that. Vonta Bentley, super impressed with the growth he's shown and think he's ready for a special season. Obviously, they love what Trevor Woods does, especially from the mental side of the game, being able to help teammates around him get lined up and be in the right gaps. But if they don't add at linebacker, I'd be concerned about that going into camp.
Yeah. You named someone I like, Big Derek Harmon, who you actually put on your website. Y'all can check that out at buffstampede.com. But 6'5", 320, he's right around that mold, that body size that I've been saying this whole time we need in that middle, dog. We need a 6'5", 6'4", 320 guy. I like Anquan Barnes. I like Torian Carter. I like Chidozie. I like all of those guys. But me, I'm just one of those, I guess, analysts, former coaches, former players who loves to have multiple pieces in that defensive front who can rotate in, because those guys are going to be rotating probably more than anybody on the field. I would say the big defensive lineman. So if Derek Harmon can come on in, highly rated. I know he's looking at USC, Miami, Ohio State, been interested, Florida State, and a few other teams. But if we can somehow get him over and let him realize how much he would be a key factor in the defense that's going to be, you know, watched all over the nation, here's your chance to put on. So hopefully we can get him and any other recruit. Like I said, I'm greedy with it. I want all of them. You know, if they can play, we want all of them. We want to raise that floor as far as talent level. With that being said, we also have
There he is.
there he is. Gosh, man, it's always something out here. It's always something.
I need to just stay down in Boulder next time we do one of these lives. I don't think we've had technical issues when I'm down there, but
Oh, when you go live
from
from the
CU,
field,
yeah, yeah.
I don't know, maybe. Yeah, because I got a connection that should be pretty strong here, but hey, there's always something. All right, but we're back once again. Appreciate everybody still rocking with us out there, wherever you rocking with us from. Put it in the chats. Let us know whether it's your city, your state, your country, wherever you're checking in from. We got Adam Munsterteiger here, the publisher of BuffStampede.com. Also working with 247 Sports and CBS Sports, correct?
That's
Let me get it
correct.
right.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, let me get it right. The wonderful world of technology, Ed in Houston said. That's how we working, man. Technology. We're thousands of miles away, and we're still connecting to talk about Coach Prime and CU football and the players out there. And so, let me see. We got Texas in here, Alabama in here, and so on. Tell us some more news out of Boulder. As I think, what was it? We got Shador Sanders having a pop up. We got Travis Hunter having a pop up. We got rapper Lil Boosie coming to town. We got YG, Lil Wayne, all these things going down in Boulder. But as of right now, it looks like the weather is not going to be favorable.
Yeah, no, let me pull this up right now because I just keep praying that this is gonna miss us. Yeah, it doesn't look good right now. It looks like high of 45 on Saturday with now on Weather Underground, they're saying 100% chance of precipitation from 1 to 3. So yeah, and I was telling Brian this on our analysis video today. It's like you almost take last year with the snow over cold rain. That
Yes,
just, that just
definitely.
doesn't feel good. So one of these, hopefully we just don't scare off Coach Prime with the weather because we like having him around. And one of these spring games we need to have, like today it was beautiful. Like it was, uh, I don't know, 65 degrees and sunny, barely any wind. It was just gorgeous. It's been really nice the vast majority of the last month, but it just doesn't time up well, it looks like, for Saturday. So that part of it's unfortunate. But
Can you
uh,
imagine? Can you envision a spring game that's perfect weather out there?
It's happened, and when it does, I'm telling you.
I mean, in the prime era. Let me rephrase that.
In the prime era, hopefully, yeah, that's what I want. Like 2025, let's have Coach Prime around and have great weather. Because when we've had those days, it's been like there's no place on the planet you'd rather be, and then
Right.
nobody's showing up still because Colorado football didn't quite have the traction it does now. So you'd maybe have like 1,500 fans in the stands, and so even with some of those great weather games, we haven't had great turnouts. And now all of a sudden we're close to. Last year we packed the place. This year we might get closer to it, and it's like the weather just isn't cooperating. But what are you going to do?
What are you going to do? Still, as Brian pointed out last night, still, what, 18,000 plus, 20,000 tickets sold. That still would be top two in attendance ever for a spring game at CU. And the closest one was like 17,000. But they were free tickets back then. So
Yep.
this is the second highest sold tickets sold for a spring game in CU history. So, I did tell last night that we have the Alabama D lineman in the portal, Alabama center in the portal. He was a starter last year, but with DeBoyer coming over from Washington, he brings over his all conference center, and now look like he will be the starter, and the former center will be heading out. Anyway, as we talked about the big detox from Michigan State, but anyway, that those guys might be on our coaching staff's radar.
Haven't heard those names pop up. It's moving so fast right now, and
Yeah.
it's crazy. I've said this a few times. I really hope that next year we get this spring game before the spring transfer portal window opens up, because like I've now got to spend the rest of today trying to catch up on the recruiting side of things after covering practice. So what we're going to have that all covered on buffstampede.com. We should have a good breakdown of all of the transfers that are going to be on campus this weekend, as well as the high school recruits. We've been doing kind of a running updates on that on our message board. And there's 3 guys this weekend: Alex Graham, a safety from IMG Academy; Corbin Lazier, a tight end that is from Tennessee; and who's the other? Mantrez Walker, a linebacker.
Yeah.
All 3 of those guys are going to be announcing their commitment this weekend, and I really like where CU stands with all 3 of those guys. So you're going to see that 2025 commitment list, I think, add a couple names, maybe even 3. We'll see this weekend.
All right. If you see this list right here, you got the guys that's uh, left and guys that's been added. Let them know where they can find this list right here.
This is Brian's list. So buffzone.com for that one. We do an eligibility chart too. If you go on buffstampede.com on the right side, you're good. You're good. You know, no, like Brian, like that's the great thing about the beat media team that we have at Colorado is, like, these practices run late every day, and everybody just kind of mulls around and talks, and there's not a whole lot of bad blood. There's a couple of reporters that I'm not going to name here that I kind of venture away from a little bit, but generally the folks that cover the team. I have no problem. Pumping up buffzone.com. So head there too.
Shout out to buffzone.com. Shout out to buffstampede.com. But don't tell me y'all have reporter beef, man. Like YouTube, they got YouTube content creator beef. So you telling me they have reporter beef nowadays too?
There are a couple people that were covering practice today that they probably think I'm a homer. And I look at some of their reporting and I say, I think that's sensationalist, and
Yeah.
I think it's hitting below the belt, and I'm not down with that. So it's not there's not one person that was at today's media scrums that I wouldn't say hi to, have a conversation with, but there's some people that I don't go out of my way to have a conversation with, if that makes sense.
That's all good. You don't have to say no names. You know what I mean? You don't have to call me up there. So
I mean, people can guess, and pretty much I would think that they would be accurate.
It's all good, man. So let me see. Coach Prime, gotta get on the Coach Prime news. Shameless plug, but I did an interview with Roderick Ward, who's getting ready for the NFL draft. We got some guys from last year getting ready for the draft and hopefully to get selected. 2 things. One, we could talk about where these guys are projected to go, probably the best fit for them, but also some positive type news from a player to Coach Prime. You know, we've seen guys leave and take shots. We've seen guys leave and not thank him. We've seen other guys leave and be very respectful, and Coach Prime responds back to him on Twitter and such and saying thank you and anything you need, always reach out to me. And then Roderick Ward last night, we did an interview and he spoke about Coach Prime and said some very heartfelt type things. I posted it on my Instagram and such. But how is it that you know, and I'm seeing this like real time that that bad news would travel like like wildfire, but I just kind of like did it for a test. I said, I wonder will this good news about Coach Prime go viral? And of course, no, it's not gonna go
Yeah.
viral. But if Rod Ward would have got on there and said F Coach Prime or he ain't nothing, I'm sure it'd be all over the internet right now. So let's just what do you think about the good words being said about Coach Prime, and then also what do you think about the guys who are in the draft eligible? Where you think they can end up?
Like, first off, I don't understand the hate that's coming at Colorado right now. And I did a radio spot before I came on with you, and they were talking about the uh, the negative national narrative and Shiloh Sanders' Instagram post getting the traction it did. And it just, a lot of this stuff doesn't make sense to me. Most of what Coach Prime is doing is positive words that are trying to uplift people, and for whatever reason, that as he says, his confidence offends other people's insecurities. And um, I'll be honest with you, like, I was expecting when Coach Prime got hired at Colorado for it to be a whirlwind. I wasn't expecting some of this negative stuff that really, like, today, one of the writers that I was kind of alluding to wrote about all these minor recruiting violations that happened at Colorado. Well, every year I've covered Colorado, and it's been a long time. I started covering this program in 2003. There have been minor recruiting violations that have been self-reported by the university. That happens pretty much everywhere. And the fact that that's on USA Today's front page is like, why? Like, do a story on every program that has a minor violation, because you're going to be writing for a very long time. It just, some of that negativity that comes at Colorado just doesn't make sense to me. In terms of Roderick Ward, I mean, I think the size part of it makes it difficult for him to get drafted, but it was really cool to see him have the pro timing day that he did to give himself, he'll get a shot out there, and that's all you need. You know, we've seen buffs like Philip Lindsay who went undrafted, went to the Denver Broncos, and he rushed for 1,000 yards and went to the Pro Bowl. So you just need that opportunity. And so even though Jordan Dominic might not hear his name called this weekend, hopefully it does. Like, hopefully I'm wrong there. Maybe Roderick Ward doesn't, but they're going to get that opportunity, and so that'll be good. Now Zay Weaver, that 40 time, I think that gets him in the draft. Now, I'm not a draft expert, and we hear that the receiver position is pretty deep in this draft, but hopefully he gets his name called. And looking ahead a year from now, I guarantee you Colorado spring game is not the same weekend as the NFL draft, because there's going to be a lot of focus on some Colorado players that are going to be selected a year from now. I would imagine that pro timing day, the credential requests next year are going to be like break all kinds of records at CU. You're muted, Chico.
Unfortunately,
There he
sorry
is.
about
There
that.
he is.
Unfortunately,
Let's just keep the
unfortunately,
technical difficulties going.
but unfortunately, this is going to be the last spring game in Shador Sanders and Shiloh Sanders, Travis Hunter era. So it's going to be a little bit different. Next year still be Coach Prime. I think we'll have a big name QB to kind of take over that Shador Sanders spot coming up. Any word or any thought, any predictions on a guy like Juju Lewis? We saw him kind of put the stiff arm to Georgia because Georgia has their guy already for 2025. He's still verbally committed to USC. We know USC and Lincoln Riley and all of the accolades he has. If he has Caleb Williams drafted first tonight, then he'll be the first coach with 3 number 1 picks at that spot, so he has a lot of things to kind of piggyback on to, recruit with. But how can Colorado come in and steal Juju, so to speak, from USC? What are the things that we can offer him coming up next year and the years to come?
You offer Juju the big stage, right? If he comes to Colorado to take over for Shedeur Sanders, and I think you could put together an NIL package. I have no idea how that would compare with what USC is offering. I don't know that information, but there was an encouraging quote from Juju recently where he said, folks are negative recruiting against Colorado, and it seems like kind of like with the Jordan Seaton thing that's kind of turning him off a little bit. Like
Right.
folks are mentioning the transfers out of the program, and just recruit for your school. Why it's going to backfire if you negative recruit. So I guess if you're a Colorado fan, you almost encourage that because it's going to push them more towards Colorado. But Colorado gets his last official visit as it's scheduled right now in June. So you always like to be able to make that last pitch to a player. I know Coach Prime says he doesn't have a sales pitch, and I believe it because when I talk to these recruits, they're like, they just keep it real there, and I appreciate that. So we'll see. Now, if Colorado does what it's hoping to do this fall, whatever that number is that 8 wins, that might be the number I would land on in terms of like, not saying that's their ceiling, but like in terms of like reaching a goal to really show that we're somebody to be taken seriously in college football going forward. They're going to get a really talented quarterback because they're going to have the ability for playing time, and don't completely write off Ryan Staub. He's had a nice spring. He gets the ball out quick. He's a nice athlete, but you're going to be able to attract a top level high school quarterback or a transfer if you take care of business on the field. So that is all going to work itself out. Every guy that has committed to a college at the quarterback position in that 2025 class is a verbal commit, right? So there is time, especially if you win games this fall with Shedeur Sanders moving on to the NFL, that if you take care of that, it's going to take care of itself on the other end in terms of being able to get a quarterback that's going to be talented to take over that position in Boulder in 2025.
All right, moving on from quarterback real quick, we got to get into a couple other positions. One would be the running back, of course, with like 3 officially on the roster who will be getting playing time this spring. Alton McCaskill is out there, Dylan Edwards out, Savion Wilkerson out, Anthony Hankerson is at Oregon State. All of the guys who got carries last year. How do you think the guys that we have on roster and the freshmen that are coming in can fill that role that Dylan Edwards is going to play as an all-purpose back, getting handoffs and getting pass attempts from like the slot position? Who are some of the guys? Can Jimmy Horn fill in there? Can Wester fill in? Cam McHale, Draylon Miller? Or will we see a lot of Dalen Hayden back in the backfield?
Yeah, you're going to see a lot of Hayden for sure back there. And I like that you mentioned Cam McMichael there. I think you watch his film. He was a running quarterback in high school. He played some defense as well. They've talked to him about playing receiver. But the second I watched that young man's tape, and I'm no like film expert, but like, it's like, man, he's got running back skills. And so I'd love to see him get a shot there. Of course, we know that Micah Welch is a dog and is going to bring the fight to whoever's on the other side of that line against him. It's probably going to just be a little bit more. We're going to see that traditional running back. If you had Dylan Edwards in the program, you're just going to utilize those strengths differently because of how versatile he is. And I don't want to sugarcoat that. I mean, I was saying this earlier today. Like, it's like, you talk about a player in space in college football right now, Dylan Edwards is about as dynamic as it gets. So, like, I'm not going to change that narrative because he's leaving. It kind of stinks that they're not going to have that weapon on offense, but he's not going to be around. So what you do is you go a little bit more traditional. I mentioned on Tuesday with you that Arizona game. I keep thinking back to that, those running backs just wearing down Colorado's defense. And so you got a Michael Welch. You got Dalen Hayden, Amos from Miami of Ohio, a running back that rushed for 1,000 yards last year, who's verbally committed to Mississippi State. It sounds like he's going to visit Colorado this weekend. So you're going to have some talent in that room, and it's the again, I'm not sugarcoating anything. You want Dylan Edwards in this program to be able to keep defenses on their toes and have that explosive playmaker in space. Now you don't have that. Well, what you can do is kind of develop a little bit more of this traditional ground attack that, again, I think Coach Prime at his heart, like he said those are the type of backs that he really gravitates towards. Dylan Edwards was just a special playmaker that you make concessions offensively to take advantage of that. Now you can go again, I think a little bit more traditional with that position.
Yep, more traditional. I still think we won't see it this spring, but I still think we should see a lot more side motion, jet sweeping, more of a Kansas City Chiefs type offensive scheme. I think would benefit us to the maximum based off of the talent in the skill position that we have around Shedeur Sanders. The offensive line should be improved. Big boy from Texas coming over, Big Kirkland. Hopefully he can, be a guy that can be developed as he goes on his career. I think he has 3 years left, or at least 3 years left to play. So him and Jordan Seaton could be those bookends on the at the tackle spots for Colorado moving forward. So any quarterback out there, you got some big bodies who's going to protect you. You got receivers all the time, and you got an offensive coordinator who's been in the league and had success, despite what some people can say. Tremaine Young said Chico, San Francisco offense would be a great fit. I like that. Everybody in the chat, get in the chat. Any questions before we get out of here? Let us know. Adam, any updates or news that we might have missed that you want to let us know about? Anything on the website someone should go check out right now?
Well, I mentioned that we're going to have a ton of recruiting coverage in the coming days, and so that's something to keep an eye on. We did also today talk to Jimmy Horn Jr., and it's great that he's getting back to full health. He was dealing with a bit of a hamstring injury and came back after spring break and was given the green light to start practicing. And again, this is one of those deals like LaJohntay Wester is going to make a lot of plays for Colorado, but they're going to be, as Pat Shermer said, in 10 personnel a lot. So you're going to see Jimmy Horn Jr. and LaJohntay Wester out there a lot with Travis Hunter, Will Shepard, and some of those other pieces, Omari and Miller. So it's Jimmy's got such a great personality. It was great to catch up with him.
Yeah, I want to hear Jimmy's interview. Actually, I will be posting the interviews a little bit later on today. Right now, they're up on buffstampede.com. Check it out. Should be up on Brian's page also. Let me see. Blue Moon said, which is better, the running back that left or the running back that stayed? I don't know.
Dylan Edwards versus Michael Welch, maybe. They're such different players. It's hard to compare those two.
Yeah, two different players brings two different type of running styles to the team. Will be used differently. Any projections on where Dylan might end up? A lot of people have been asking me to follow up on that. I've seen some people projecting Kansas State, but they have a running back. Ole Miss with what's coach name? Going blank right now. Ole Miss's coach Lane Kiffin.
Yeah.
And then or either Miami down there with Cam Ward. Where do you see Dylan going? And matter of fact, I don't know if I asked you this question yet. Why do you think Dylan left?
I think NIL played a factor in there. I think that playing time, like in terms of the competition side of thing, but I've heard NIL is definitely part of what's going on there, and so it's the new day and age in college football, and you don't wish any ill will towards them. I don't think. It's just unfortunate because so many folks became attached to his personality and really wanted to see him make those big plays at Colorado. But yeah, it's just so many times when there was this one, like you've got to sit out 1 year before you can play, that would deter young men from transferring. And then I talk to them when they're seniors or they graduated from Colorado, and you talk to them about their journey, and so many of them would say, yeah, I almost left when my sophomore year my girlfriend broke up with me and I just was like wanting to get out of here, or uh, this happened or that happened, or they recruited this player that I was like frustrated because I thought I was in line for whatever that was at that time, but I stuck it out. And then the general feeling from those conversations was that they were glad they stuck it out. And so for Dylan Edwards, I hope he goes on and has great success. The grass isn't always greener, so we'll see how it plays out. But that is the one downfall to the portal. It's like the first sight of adversity, I'm out of here. And it's like, you learn a lot by overcoming that adversity. And so the fact that these young people aren't having to do that quite as much in college football, it makes me feel like the old man yelling at clouds. But I really do think it's true. Like, I think you got to work your way past that. When I first moved to Colorado in 2003, I got homesick, but now I couldn't imagine living anywhere else. So you sometimes as a human being need to go through that. And this is more broad topic than specifically about Dylan, where I think there was some NIL factors in there, but generally that's the part of this new era that's a little bit harder for me to stomach.
I agree, man. But much success to all of those guys who transfer, man. This is the nature of it right now. I said last night, hate the game, don't hate the player. And to quote Uncle Snoop and a few others, but that's just what it is. And I'm not gonna criticize this guy for leaving, or at least I'm gonna try not to criticize this guy for leaving, and then we're going to pick up a guy who just left a program also.
Right.
So it kind of goes, hand in hand, whatever. But that's the nature of the business, man. And it's nothing different than I feel like free agency in NFL football, or even if you're playing Madden, or if you're playing 2K, and you go into the career mode, you're going to try to improve your team by either trading or going to the free agency list and see who's in free agency. Oh, I could pick him up and take him off my team. Now my team is overall that much better. That's where I think we are right now, and that's just how they set it up. Blame the NCAA. Don't get mad at Coach Prime or any of the players who left. But I think it's our job to, excuse me, as a recruiting staff, as a coaching staff, it's our job to just, you know, usher them out the door, so to speak, or let them walk out the door, but then do our due diligence to bring in a guy who can actually, um, fill that role that we were expecting to do. So moving on, transfer portal is still open, and things will still continue to go down probably after the spring game. But as far as right now, we're looking to bring in and improve guys. So that's where we're looking towards. Not really looking for the guys, looking towards the guys who are leaving. Any other questions in the chat that we need to get to? I see a lot of different things going on in here, but all in all, man, we appreciate everybody joining us once again for Buffum Updates, all new uh, updates from myself, Adam and myself, Bigg Dogg Chico. Adam, let them know where they can find you at once again.
On social media at AdamCM777, and head to buffstampede.com if you want to stay up to date with all the latest recruiting news, because it's going to be coming pretty fast and furious here in the coming days.
Yes, indeed. All right, stay updated and stay positive. We're gonna. Coach Prime said we good. We good, dog. We all right. We good. Bigg Dogg. We good. I said, all right, Coach Prime, we good. So I'm riding with him. That's just what it is.
They've
All right.
gotten better every single transfer window, and yet the overreaction happens every time. It's like, can you just wait a couple weeks? Like, I get that it's 2024 and there's a 24-hour news cycle in X, but like, can we just give this staff an opportunity to fill back up the roster. Apparently not, but that's where
Right.
I'm at least.
So quick to jump when somebody, so quick to jump on when somebody is leaving, but okay, let them get out the door and give us a chance to bring somebody in. Just like you said, I got
Yeah.
full faith in my staff and my recruiting team. And will y'all just have some faith in me, please? Like, I'm still me in a way he's kind of saying, I'm still me. I'm still primed out. People are going to come in, people are going to leave. One last thing, I think of a lot of people just surprised when a player leaves that has connections to him, that played with him as a youth or things of that nature. That doesn't mean I have to stay with him forever. That means that probably they've learned some things from him and they're saying that, okay, whether it's the right or wrong thing, but if I have a chance to go get NIL money, if I have a chance to go get in a situation that I feel like is going to be better for me, then by God, do it. But let's do it in a way to be respectful. That way, you're not burning any bridges because he's a huge resource to have. Why burn the bridge as you leave out? Shake hands, look at him in the eyes, say thank you very much, and see you later. That's what it is. So that's just me. Y'all can find me Bigg Dogg Chico underscore Bigg Dogg underscore Chico on all platforms: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. Do a little some on TikTok and the other apps and so on. But find me there. Follow. We got more Coach Prime news coming each and every day. Brian and myself call it Premium Primetime Buff Talk, and that's what we're bringing right here on Buff 'em Updates also. So stay tuned and let me know what you think. Leave a like, subscribe, comment. Everything else, we're going to be up and about here. Peace in the Middle East. Yeah.